Welcome back to the Audacity of Him. Today we are looking at a field report, a case study about a guy named Finn, or as he is known in the bleak fluorescent lit hallways of his mid-level logistics firm, the apex predator of Cubicle 4. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive sociological research into the Sigma grindset, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a transmission from the void. James had known Finn for 3 years. When he first started at their mid-level logistics firm, he was just a normal guy. He was completely unremarkable in the best way possible. He wore sensible slacks from Kohl's. He liked Marvel movies. He ate standard turkey sandwiches with a little bit of mayonnaise on whole wheat bread, and he occasionally asked people how their weekends were without expecting a dissertation in return. Then the algorithms got him. Sometime last year, Finn discovered a YouTube channel called How to Sigma. I remember the exact week the shift occurred. It was mid-October. Within a month, his entire personality was rewritten in neon grid lines and funk music. The transformation was both terrifying and fascinating to watch, like observing a very boring caterpillar turn into an incredibly hostile, crypto-obsessed moth. It started with the morning greetings. He stopped saying good morning. Instead, he started giving me a single, sharp nod from across the break room, his jaw permanently clenched as if he was trying to crush a walnut between his molars. When Susan, our 60-year-old receptionist, cheerfully asked him how his Tuesday was going, he stared right through her and said, "The concept of days is a construct designed to keep the proletariat tethered to the 40-hour work week. I am currently operating on a continuous cycle of asset accumulation." Susan just blinked and offered him a mini muffin. He slapped it out of her hand. He later claimed it was a reflexive self-defense against seed oils, but HR still had to have a talk with him. His workspace evolved to reflect his new internal state. He threw away his framed photos of his golden retriever. He replaced his ergonomic office chair with a standing desk that he refused to actually stand at, opting instead to do deep, primal squats while reviewing shipping manifest spreadsheets. He started wearing a weighted vest to the copier. He claimed that the constant gravitational resistance ensured his central nervous system was always primed for combat, though the only thing he ever fought was the paper jam in tray 2. His diet changed too. Gone were the turkey sandwiches. Instead, the break room became his personal theater of dietary dominance. One day during the office potluck, while everyone else brought chili and pasta salad, Finn brought a single large Ziploc filled entirely with raw elk meat. He refused to use the microwave, explaining loudly to anyone within earshot that electromagnetic radiation was a tool used by the government to calcify the pineal gland. He just sat there at the plastic folding table, gnawing on cold, bloody game meat, glaring at anyone who dared to eat a simple carbohydrate in his presence. "Pasta," he told our regional manager, Dave, while Dave was midway through a bite of baked ziti, "is a simple carbohydrate, Dave, much like the US dollar is a simple, hollow promise. Have you looked into the underlying architecture of Web 3.0? Or are you just going to keep poisoning your testosterone levels with that gluten matrix?" Dave just slowly backed away. But the real tragedy didn't unfold until Finn decided to re-enter the dating pool. Or, as he called it, the marketplace. I had the misfortune of witnessing his profile creation. I was trapped in the break room while he was making his coffee, which he now made by mixing unroasted coffee beans with a stick of Kerrygold butter in a blender. Ugh! And he shoved his phone in my face. "Review my filtration system, James," he commanded. I looked at his Hinge profile. It was a masterpiece of hostility. His first photo wasn't him smiling with friends. It was a low-angle shot of him standing in an empty parking lot at night, wearing polarized Oakley sunglasses, holding a completely unidentifiable, very muddy fish. He wasn't smiling. He looked furious at the fish. His second photo was just a screenshot of a wildly plummeting Ethereum chart. "Finn, what is this?" I asked. "It's a deterrent," he explained, aggressively blending his butter coffee. "A beta male tries to cast a wide net. A sigma male builds an electric fence. Look at the prompts." I scrolled down. The prompt read, "I'm looking for someone who..." His answer? "Understands that the Matrix is real, seed oils are government tracking devices, and that my podcast is technically a non-profit organization dedicated to unwiring the female psychology." Another prompt read, "My simple pleasures." His answer? "I do not experience pleasure. Pleasure is a dopamine trap designed to distract you from the collapsing fiat currency mindset. I experience only the grind." "Finn," I said softly, handing the phone back, "no one is going to match with this. You sound like a serial killer who also runs a Ponzi scheme." He smirked, a slow, knowing smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Exactly, James. You're thinking like a civilian. When a female matches with this profile, she has already surrendered to my frame. She is already terrified. The psychological warfare has commenced before I even say hello. And somehow, against all laws of nature and human self-preservation, a week later, he got a match. I had a front row seat to the catastrophe. It was a Tuesday morning by the water cooler when Finn cornered me. He wasn't wearing his usual khakis. He had on a pair of those polarized Oakley sunglasses indoors, a thick silver chain over a black turtleneck, and a t-shirt underneath that just said "unbothered" in bold white letters, which I could see through the fabric. "I secured a rendezvous point last night," he announced, staring at a spot on the wall 3 feet above my head. "With a female named Olivia. Met her on Hinge." "Oh, nice," I said, desperately trying to edge back toward the safety of my cubicle. "Where did you guys go? That nice Italian place downtown? The one with the string lights?" Finn scoffed, a harsh guttural sound that sounded like a goose choking on a dime. "Ha! Italian is for the Matrix bound, James. No, I took her to Dave & Buster's during the UFC 295 undercard." I froze. "Dave & Buster's?" I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "For a first date. On a Saturday night, during a UFC fight." "Sensory overload," he whispered, tapping his temple with one finger. "It establishes dominance. A high-value male does not choose a quiet, ambient wine bar to facilitate conversation. That is a trap. I selected a venue where human connection is physically impossible." Over the next 45 minutes, as my coffee grew stone cold and my soul grew increasingly weary, Finn recounted what he genuinely believed was the most triumphant evening of his entire life. He proudly told me how, when Olivia arrived, he was standing at the bar. He didn't walk over to greet her. He didn't offer to take her coat. He didn't even say hello. He gave her a single sharp nod from 20 feet away, forcing her to weave through a screaming crowd of men wearing tap-out shirts just to reach him. "I was busy calculating gas fees on my phone," he explained to me. "If I look up from the blockchain to greet a woman, I have already ceded my energetic sovereignty." They moved to the arcade floor. Finn told me with absolute sincerity that he refused to play any cooperative games like Mario Kart or the basketball shootout. He only played games where he could act alone. He spent 20 minutes playing a motorcycle racing game, but refused to physically lean into the turns. She kept asking me why I kept crashing into the virtual walls, Finn chuckled darkly. I told her that a high-value male dictates his own center of gravity. I do not bend to the simulated physics of a Japanese arcade cabinet. I forge my own path. Eventually, they sat down at a sticky booth right behind a giant television broadcasting two men bleeding on a canvas mat. The volume was deafening. Olivia, clearly trying to salvage the evening, attempted to make conversation. She tried to tell him about her job as an event planner for a nonprofit. That was when I deployed the algorithm, Finn said, his eyes gleaming behind his indoor sunglasses. The repellent conversational algorithm. I deployed what I call the blockchain barrage. Oh, God, I muttered. She was talking about a charity gala she was organizing for the local animal shelter, Finn said. I immediately cut her off. I asked her how a charity gala fixes the fundamentally flawed architecture of Web 3.0. She looked confused. So I spent the next 40 straight minutes talking over her about the decentralized ledger. 40 minutes? I asked, horrified. Without stopping? I only stopped to raise a single index finger to silence her whenever she tried to order a drink from the passing waitress, he said proudly. She tried to pivot the conversation back to dogs at one point. I told her that dog ownership is a symptom of a codependent society that lacks the discipline to be alone. I then segued seamlessly into a pitch for my podcast. Ah, yes, the podcast. Finn's crown jewel. I told her about the Alpha's crucible, Finn continued. I gave her an oral dissertation on my latest 3-hour solo cast, where I complained about the declining quality of modern drywall and how gypsum board is intentionally manufactured to lower male testosterone. I explained how my podcast is currently threatening the mainstream media establishment. Did she seem to enjoy that? I asked, morbidly fascinated by the sheer scale of the train wreck. Her eyes glazed over completely, Finn beamed, taking a sip of his butter coffee. She stopped speaking entirely. She just stared at her phone under the table. Her central nervous system was clearly short-circuiting in the presence of overwhelming high-value male energy. It was a textbook execution of the algorithms. It got worse. Much worse. We arrived at phase 4. Dietary dominance. When the terrified 19-year-old waitress named Haley finally managed to get to their table, Finn refused to even glance at the menu. The menu is a suggestion for the masses, James, Finn told me. I looked at that waitress dead in the eye and demanded a plate of completely raw ground beef and 6 uncracked eggs. At Dave and Buster's, I said, rubbing my temples. You ordered raw beef at a children's arcade and sports bar. The waitress said they couldn't do that, Finn said, scoffing. She said it was a health code violation. I told her the health code was drafted by beta males who are terrified of the primal microbiome. She had to go get her manager, a guy named Kyle. I alpha'd Kyle, James. I stared Kyle down until he brought me a plate of uncooked hamburger meat. He made me sign a waiver on a napkin, but I got the meat. When Olivia politely ordered a side salad and a plate of loaded nachos, Finn apparently spent the entire meal staring at her plate, muttering seed oils under his breath while shaking his head in profound disappointment. He refused to ask her a single question about herself for the entire duration of the 2-hour date. Curiosity is a vulnerability, Finn explained to me at the water cooler, as if this was common knowledge. Asking a woman about her hobbies implies that you care about her internal world. I must exist purely as a broadcast tower, transmitting my own unsolicited opinions into the void. "So, how did it end?" I asked, genuinely fearing the answer. "The real victory was the financial negotiation." He pulled out his phone and opened the Venmo app. He shoved the screen in my face. It was a pending request to Olivia M. for exactly $14.37. The caption just read, "Resources." "You billed her for a first date at Dave & Buster's?" I asked, my voice cracking slightly. "I didn't just bill her," Finn corrected me, holding up a finger. "I calculated the exact percentage of the loaded nachos she consumed. I counted the jalapeno distribution. I noted that she had 2 glasses of tap water while I had none, so she should technically cover the tip for the server's labor regarding her hydration. I also factored in an 8% opportunity cost fee for my time, since I could have been at home charting Ethereum. A high-value male does not subsidize the caloric intake of a stranger." "So, are you going to see her again?" I asked. Finn smirked, a slow, deeply unsettling expression that chilled me to the bone. He switched tabs on his phone to Instagram. He typed her name into the search bar. "User not found." "She blocked me on everything," Finn said, his voice thick with unearned pride. "Instagram, Hinge, iMessage. She even found my LinkedIn, my professional networking profile, James, and blocked me there." "Finn, buddy," I said, trying to interject some reality into his delusional bubble. "I'm pretty sure she hated the date. I'm pretty sure you terrified her." "Wrong, James," Finn snapped, aggressively adjusting his Oakleys. "You are looking at this through the lens of a matrix-bound beta. I didn't get rejected. I initiated a tactical isolation. I weeded out the weak. I presented her with an unscalable wall of alpha energy, and her fragile programming simply gave out. She realized she couldn't offer me any value, so she removed herself from my orbit. I am an apex predator of solitude." That conversation happened 6 months ago. Things have progressed exactly how you would expect for an apex predator of solitude. Finn is currently facing intensive mandated HR mediation. Apparently, tactical isolation doesn't fly well in a corporate environment. He keeps telling the new female interns that their degrees in communications will be rendered obsolete by AI in precisely 14 months, and that they should drop out immediately and learn how to weld. He also started referring to paid time off as matrix pauses, which confused the payroll department so much they accidentally suspended his direct deposit. He lives entirely alone in a 1-bedroom apartment near the airport. I know this because he refuses to stop sending me links to his podcast, The Alpha's Crucible, every Friday at 2:00 a.m. He records it from his kitchen. The acoustics are terrible. You can hear his refrigerator humming in the background. The analytics on Spotify show exactly 1 listener, which I strongly suspect is just him leaving the tab open on his work computer over the weekend to artificially inflate his numbers. In his latest 3-hour solo cast, titled Episode 42, Why Sleep is Stealing Your Grains and the Fiat Matrix of Flossing, I listened to about 10 minutes of it out of morbid curiosity. Amidst his rambling monologue about how the government is putting estrogen in tap water to make men compliant, I heard it. A profound, echoing emptiness in the background. It wasn't just the hum of the fridge. It was the sound of a man who had successfully built an unscalable fortress around himself, locked the heavy iron door from the inside, and then purposely swallowed the key. He had constructed a reality where everyone else was the problem, where every rejection was a victory, and where being entirely alone was the ultimate prize. Every now and then, I look over the cubicle wall. Finn is usually just there at his standing desk, locked in a deep squat, wearing his weighted vest. He'll be violently clicking his mouse, squinting into the fluorescent lights as if he's calculating the exact moment the global banking system will collapse. He has successfully driven away every potential friend, every romantic partner, and every polite acquaintance he has ever had. He is completely, undeniably, entirely alone. And to his credit, he looks absolutely, fundamentally miserable. But as he would probably tell you, at least he didn't pay for Olivia's nachos. And there you have it. The tragic, terrifying, and hilarious descent of Finn, the apex predator of Cubicle 4. A man who won the battle against human connection, only to realize that the prize was a lifetime supply of raw beef and 0 text messages. If you have a Finn in your office, or if you've ever had the misfortune of sitting across from someone who tried to alpha a plate of appetizers, drop a comment down below and share your survival story. If you enjoyed this field report, make sure to smash that like button. Unlike Finn, we actually appreciate the engagement. Subscribe to the Audacity of Him for more deep dives into the bizarre mechanics of the Sigma grindset. And remember, if she blocked you on LinkedIn, you didn't win the interaction. You just need therapy. Until next time, stay grounded, stay away from raw chicken, and we'll see you in the next video.